Thank you, Guckian. Thanks. Great. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Edwina from Leòr. Lots of familiar faces here today that I've danced with before, and lots that I'd love to meet and speak with afterwards as well. So I'm here today supported by Leòr. I am a commissioned artist at Leòr that I have a new piece coming up with the company on the 30th of April and 1st day of May called Shlimpini, which is a site-specific piece. And I'm also working with them as dance deputy. So my role there is for the West and Northwest primarily to be used by people that might want to use me in some way, whether it be a sounding board or to discuss where you might be able to get funding for dance, or if you're looking at getting your community dancing and not sure how about to do it, anything really. So if anybody is interested in having a chat, I'm free to chat here or send me an email as well afterwards. Apply@leòr.ie. I'll be able to chat with you there as well. Also, Lally is here from Leòr today. This is Lally in the front row with the hat, and he has some treats outside from Leòr as well on the table, so feel free to pick up some of those as well. So I'm going to speak about my work primarily in Leitrim. That's where I live, and I'm lucky because I automatically have a community that I've grown up in. I'm nearly 38, so 38 years living in Leitrim and in a very comfortable, welcoming environment. So they're really great at saying, well, Edwina wants us to come out at 5 o'clock this evening and bring bales of hay up a hill and light a fire and dance around it. Sure, look, we'll do it. So I'm great. They're really trusting. But I also have a really welcoming community because Leitrim's always seen as the county that's the running joke of Ireland, and who lives there? Does anyone actually live there? Or congratulations, you're the first person I ever met from Leitrim. All these kind of things, and the huge amount of people moving out, when they get to 1920, they're gone out of the county, and they do come back. I think they have to go away and realise what they had at home and how special it was. But we also have a huge amount of refugees in Leitrim. And then also a huge amount of people who choose to make Leitrim their home that aren't from the county. So primarily artists, because it's a cheap place to live. And we have the highest percentage of artists per capita in all of Ireland. So it's a very artistic community and open-minded and welcoming, and a place where we try to get everybody involved, regardless of age, whatever. Everybody's welcome to partake. So I'll speak about some of the projects that I've been doing over the past few years. This is one of our big ones, and it's starting off again next week in Leitrim. So the Sowing the Seed project came about 5 or 6 years ago. I was trying to find someone to help me, teach me how to make straw mummer hats, and I couldn't find anybody because all of the people that made them when I was growing up had all passed away, and I hadn't learned the skills from them. So a lady from the Heritage Council came and taught me, and the straw that she had with her, she had imported from England. And I thought this was crazy. Why are we importing straw when we've got loads of it here? So on our farm, I live on a farm at home, and our straw is always mulched up. So the problem is that the harvesters are mulching it up, and it's not been cut by hand with a sickle. So this started the project, and we started getting oat seed, handing it out across Leitrim to people, and getting people to grow again. So people are growing in their own gardens to grow your own mummer hat, which is very disappointing to some children who don't realise that they don't grow in the shape of mummer hats. But so 2 metres square is all you need for seed, but also there's been Organic Farmers Co-op is in Leitrim, and they've been promoting it as well, and farmers have been sowing acres of it, which has been really successful as well. But we also have a wonderful farm called Meitheal Eco Farm on the shores of Lough Allen underneath Slieve and Éireann, and on that farm we have a communal grow. So if you don't have land, or you just want to sow with other people and meet other people, every spring we bring everybody together. Tommy has the land prepared and harvested, or not harvested, as it turned, and off we go when we spread the seeds together. So I'll just show you some of the pictures. So here's our oat seed. And there we are, raining seed. So as we do that, then as we go along throughout the year, this is Tommy. I'll just show you some of the, as I speak. So this is the Mount Allen farm. So people come here to also not just sow the oats. He gives this as a space to people who don't have land, or we have 300 Ukrainians in the hotel in Drumshambo, and he gave them his field to come and grow their vegetables. So it's just kind of a lovely special day for bringing people together from all across the county and much further afield and learn about growing oats and the farming techniques used for it organically and sharing stories. Like all these people grew up sowing oats on their farms, but now we're being told that Leitrim land can't do that. It can do it, no problem. So that there, the straw rope making there is a technique for the sugan chairs, and also it's the base. There you can see the sugan chairs that we made, and it's also the base for the mummer's hat. And the other thing as well with that is the straw ropes were traditionally made for the cocks of hay. So when people farmed in the fields and they had the cocks of hay, instead of letting them blow away, they would make those ropes to weigh them down. So yeah, you can see then it grows all summer long, and by the time August, early September comes, we harvest it. So this is the small patch on our field, and we made about 300 hats out of that small patch there. Bringing it in. So while it's growing, and all of that kind of silent resting time takes place from now, spring, until late August. We also have other things. So I travel around, not just Leitrim, but around Ireland. This was at the Burn Bio project in Clare, teaching people about how to make the hats, but also the traditions around straw, be it at Bealtaine or for Imbolc with St. Bridget, with the Biddy Boys and the Brídeog Doll. So we learn about all of those customs. And also we teach the dances that we can do for the mummers and for the mummers ball later in the year. So yeah, this is really what I'm known for in Leitrim these days. I was walking down Grafton Street not that long ago with a hat, and they were like, "Oh, you're the girl with the straw from Leitrim." So the other thing that we do then is make the costumes with children, just to encourage them to be part of it, because I find what happens now with a lot of our projects like this, adults just leave the children to it and expect the children to carry it on, particularly around the mummers tradition. It's very much viewed as, the children can go knock on the doors, but it was never like that. For me growing up, it was never children, it was only adults, and it was a real privilege when you hit 12 or 13 that you got invited into the group. So I'm trying to really encourage that again, that the adults come out. So I'm not just teaching the children how to make them, you're teaching they have to bring adults, their parents, siblings, grandparents, aunts and uncles. They all have to come too and learn how to do the dances. So that's the photograph prior to that, where they were all dancing. That was all the generations. There you can see the grandmother and the mother has come along with this girl. And then we make the hats. I love this picture of Steve because he's so cool. So I'm always showing it to kids going, look, cool people take part in the mummers. And then this is after we make the costumes and spend all November. I forgot to actually say to you, but I should go back, is when we harvest those photographs of us cutting with the sickles, we have a big harvest day where we bring everybody to Tommy's farm again. And we have a dance and people make food and we party and there's music. It's a really beautiful communal day of everybody coming together. So then the oats hang up to dry for all of October, November, and then come December, then we're ready to make the costumes. So we make them, and then for December, then at Christmas time, we head out. This photograph's slightly terrifying, but we we head out mumming, then knocking on people's doors all across our communities. And the best part is, what I really love about it is we nominate a captain mummer all across Leitrim. So we have about 15 of them, and we'll say, right, Vicky's the captain mummer in Drumkeeran, and she decides the time. It might be like 5 o'clock on St. Stephen's Day, and we'll meet at Drumkeeran Church. And you never know who's going to come, but they all start pulling up in their cars and hats and costumes and everything coming out. So we have stations all across Leitrim doing that. And then we go from door to door, knocking on people's doors. You can see us heading off. This is Drumsna. Some of the photographs over the years. This is our 5th year of it. It's really, really special. So aside from the whole getting ready and building that community, it's the people you call to as well. Those memories that are really lovely and mean so much to them. So this was during COVID. So we did it all through the lockdowns, which confused people because it wasn't Christmas at all. But they were just so grateful to have us. It was really lovely, and keeping that distance. Like, this is my neighbour Brendan. Um, and Pete here, Peter Devine insisted like that he was going to come with us. So, you know, during COVID, they really wanted to come and be part of it, but they couldn't. Yeah, it's my brother making his costume. Okay, and then the last part, to celebrate the end of the mumming season. On the 6th of January every year, we have the Mummers Parade. And the parade moves all across, it changes location each year. So this is in Meitheal in Leitrim. And we just put a shout out to people that we're going to have a parade. And I was really hoping people would show up, and hoping for about like 30 or 40 we'd be doing really well. And nearly 400 mummers showed up. Not just from Leitrim, like they started the Auckland, who's the really famous mummer group, pulled in with a busload of mummers and a trailer for their costumes. It was really, we were like, ooh, we have to up our game. But it was beautiful. And this year we did it, and the Fingal mummers came from Dublin, and there's that rivalry and crack as well. So the parade, we parade through the town with everybody, all ages, and everybody comes out because they don't know what's going on. And it's really beautiful. But afterwards then, oh, I might just show you, that'll play. Yeah. So this was this year in Drumshanbo. That's my painter. Like, he doesn't dance or play music, but he's so into it. So it's to get all those people. There's so many people here. Actually, some lady here, Linda, you're here somewhere. Linda, there she is. Linda came to it this year all the way from Clifton with her family and took part as well. So it's a really beautiful community event. And if I could show you all the people under that's taken part, they're not dancers or musicians, they're just farmers, and the shopkeeper, the priest is in there. It's the most random mix. And then here comes the professional Fingal crew with their tunes. So yeah, it's really beautiful. So I'll just move on to the next one now, please. So when that's all over and we have the parade finishes then at a hall. And this year we had it in Drumshanbo Hall, and we had the Mummers Ball. And it was tradition years ago for the community to, all the money that you collected going from door to door, that money would be put back then towards a party at the end. And it would usually be in a house, a local house. But for this one, because there's just so many people, we have it in the hall. So the Tulla band came and played, and I call dances, and some people get up and sing songs and tell stories, and others dance, and others sit there and watch and refuse to dance. And yeah, so it's a really beautiful event, the Mummers Ball, and again, all ages and people that would never do something like this. This is the man who built my house, and his grandson, and I love these pictures because you'd never see them doing this usually. It's really special. So yeah, so that's Sowing the Seed project. And the other good thing about that is it's not just in Leitrim. People do ring me and they say, can we do your project in Kerry? And it's not my project. Nothing I'm doing there is new or my idea. I'm literally looking back to what my grandparents and great-grandparents did, and I'm just doing that. So everything I've learned from that project or instigated that project is by talking to my community and seeing, well, what did you do? And that's what we're doing. It's as simple as that. So there's... it's spread, it's in different parts of the country, and people in other areas join in with us then, the WhatsApp group. So there's a lady up in Tyrone who just started sewing 2 weeks ago, and she sent the pictures through to the WhatsApp group there yesterday, and there was so many people like going, oh, that's right, showing off to us you're sewing 2 weeks ago when you'd sink to your knees in Leitrim land. It's so wet at the moment. So there's real rivalry between everyone, and it's lovely when they come together then and they're like, oh, you're one from Tyrone, with, you know. So there's that aspect, but it's also gone further afield. So we have, it's in Scotland now as well, and the project is just starting up this year in Finland and in Norway as well. So they've been sending me videos of their fields that they're going doing it. All Irish diaspora from there. So that's Sowing the Seed project. So I'll just speak then about, this is a mock to the field that I did with the artist Natalia Bayliss and a National Parks and Wildlife Service officer, retired officer, John Matthews. So the idea behind this was my grandfather was a carpenter. I had his door and didn't know what to do with them. And I really wanted it because they're so beautiful. And I said, if I put it up in a field, I could do a project with it and let's see who'll notice it. So one day on a Saturday, I went out and I stuck it in our farm field. And the next day, my dad came home from mass and he said, everyone's wondering what you're doing with the door. So I was like, yes, great, I'm away with it. So I'm really rooted in our farm at home in our Leitrim land. Like I work a lot trying to protect the environment at home with different groups, particularly against Sitka spruce plantations. So this is where this project came from. And we had 21 townlands and we researched each person, a person had to live on each townland. So I approached farmers and landowners and said, I want you to research your townland, tell me everything about it, what it's called in Irish, more importantly, why is it called that, who lived here, tell me about the biodiversity on it, stories, the culture, any fairy stories, everything that you can tell me about this. I want you to document it. And they did. And John Matthews walked the land and pointed out everything that was on it, from like marsh fritillary butterflies to rare orchids, or how they could introduce more back to their land. And Natalia was in charge of recording and editing. So with the 21 doors, the locations, every townland had to put up a door from that townland. So they picked doors that were buried inside in forests that were belonging to old houses, or they picked doors from their sheds or from their own family homes, and they hung them up. Then the location was placed online of all 21 doors, and you had to find the coordinates of it, go to the door. On the door was a phone number. You had to ring that phone number, and on that phone, when they answered, it was a pre-record of the farmer telling you all about that townland. So you had to go there. You couldn't, ring it from Dublin. You had to be on the site to get the phone number. And then they would address you and say, look at the door. Now turn your back to it. Do you see this? Do you see that? So it was really special and a really great way of connecting community, because what ended up happening was people didn't even need to ring the number by the end of it. Because if John down the road saw a car pulling in, he was out and standing at the door. And then all of a sudden people were messaging like on Facebook and saying, we had a really good time at your project and we had tea with John and his wife. And so it was a really great way of connecting everybody again. And the people that lived around the door would say, oh, well, you forgot to put in this story. And then all of a sudden these stories were appearing that people didn't know about the townland. The 21st townland had a door on it, but the whole townland was 100% planted in conifers and nobody lived there anymore. So when you rang the number, it was me saying, we have no story for this townland because nobody's here to tell it anymore. So I'll just show you some of the pictures of the people that took part. And we're hoping, this is Mount Allen Eco Farm where we had the harvest earlier on. So this is Tommy's, and Tommy's a really funny man. If you walk through that door, that's a bog hole. So he's re-wetting the bog, and he would stand back and watch people like go up to here in it, and thought it was brilliant. I was like, I'm not sure our insurance covers this, Tommy, but but he was delighted. And this is JP McGann, a 90-year-old man, and he was able to tell me stories about his grandfather, who I had found through the school's folklore collection. I was reading it out to him. And he told me that his grandfather in 1845, in Black 45, was the ganger for the council at the time. And his job was travelling the road where I live beside JP, collecting the dead bodies and burying them in fields around us. So he was able to tell me where there was funeral graves all around the place. And I asked so many people who owned that land around the place, did you know that you've got a famine burial site? And they didn't. And JP never thought to tell anybody. So it was really great to get that information. That's the 21st door. Okay, so how am I doing for time? Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, so that was the Mock to the Field project, and we're hoping to do that in 2026 again. In 2025, we're doing walk in townlands as part of a Mock to the Field. So instead of the doors, this time across one day, we'll walk 10 townlands in a loop, and there will be a farmer at each townland to stop and talk or play music or tell you something associated with that townland. So So this is the Just Rambling project. This has been a really beautiful one. So just to go back to JP, you know JP there, this is JP. I called to connect all the projects for you. I called to JP, I called him all the time, but on St. Stephen's Day last year, 2023, I called to him and I said, we were doing the Mummers, and I knocked on his door and we danced away and played a few tunes, and Fionnuala sang a song for him. And then I said, had you a nice Christmas day? And he said, I had a very quiet one. And he said, nobody called to me, and the only one that called was the home help, who knocked on the door and left my dinner on the doorstep and was gone by the time I got to the door. So that broke my heart. And it's not just him, there's loads of people similar to that situation living in such a rural place. So this is what instigated this project. So the Just Rambling project is encouraging people to ramble again. Just go and walk into your neighbour's house without any invitation. Just go and chat and sit down, tell a story, hear the news, ask them about the townland, whatever it is. And people kept going, that's not going to work. And I can understand too, because we have automatic gates and alarms, and people get annoyed with you if you don't text them to tell them you're going to ring them. So all that kind of stuff. But it worked really, really great. So we launched it live on RTE Radio 1 back in October at 8 o'clock in the morning on Countrywide, which was the earliest party I ever had in my house. With a huge, we had a rambling house at 8 o'clock in the morning at my house. So everybody called over JP, and we had music and singing and dancing. But it's been happening now right through winter, all the way until March. Just there last week, we had the last one at my house. So I had 2 at my house, but everybody else volunteered their houses across the county. And we looked at different ways of bringing people together that needed a visit. And people automatically think elderly people, which is correct, but lots of other people need to get out in the community that need a visit, mental health-wise, social health-wise. It's so important. So I'll just show you these were the photographs that people shared with us of their days of rambling when they were younger. So prior to the project starting off, we went to people to ask them what's their memories of rambling and going to each other's houses. When I was growing up, that's all we had. We had ramblers that came every day. I live around a lake, and the whole around the lake is all bachelors, and they all came all the time. One in particular man was John, and whether you were in your house or leaving the house, John would be there. So on a Thursday, I could come in and John would be there, or if I had to leave, I'd be like, bye, John, see you later. And John would be like, grand, see you later, and he'd stay there. So it was really a lovely part, which sounds bizarre, I guess, to most people, but for me, that's how we grew up, having people move in and out. And to connect this back to the farming, our farming traditions have really changed for us on our farm particularly. We have one tractor, and the tractor does all the work, and my dad does all the work, and my brother, and all of those people that used to come help us are all working individually in their own fields too, and nobody is coming together to help sow, plant, harvest, help each other bring in the bales, move cattle. Everything is an individual job anymore, and it's sad to see that. It's not the way forward. We have to look back to see what people were doing, I think, to be able to move forward. So people started putting up signs. They were like, how do we get people into our houses? So I was like, put up a sign that says, Ramblers, come in. And it worked really well as well across the county. So this was the last night, and a busload of 28 active age from Drumreilly came. It was deadly crack. They're so happy. That's the last rambling night at our house until winter again. So with all of my work, it tends to come back to dance in some way, but I trick them. They don't know they're going to dance, and I bring them in other ways, and then we're like, and we'll finish off with a dance. So, and they all go home happy out. So I'll just show you, this is one of the ones I've been doing the longest. This is Effort in a Crossroads dance, where Jimmy Gralton's dance hall once stood. So this is one of our favourite community events that now doesn't need me to run it. I can just step back and they'll do it themselves, which is really what I want my work to do, that I can empower a community to do whatever it is they want to do and then step back and they don't need me, and that they can run it themselves. So this is since 2012 was the first year that we ran Effort in a Crossroads dance. And all I do is just shout out to the community that we're going to have tunes, we're going to light the fire, we're going to put out the bales, and just come. And people come. And it's just, I can't tell you how wholesome this night is. It's one of the most special in our community. And what's lovely is now when I go down to like local school where my kids go, they'll be like, oh, I can't wait for the Crossroads dance now, it'll be great. And we have the sticks ready for it, and how big are your sticks? And they're competing with each other. And then I'll teach the dances to the children in the school and in the local community, and I'll say, go home now and teach those dances to your parents and your grandparents. And they have to be able to get up and do them now with you at the Crossroads, because you can't dance on your own at the Crossroads. So it's a real cross-generational thing where you can see yourselves. And we always say, if you want to dress up 1920s, 30s style, fire ahead. But yeah, so the project I'm working on now at the moment, this is my last thing. I'll stop talking then. This is my last thing to tell you about. The Devil's in the Dance Hall, and it's very much related to this. So in the 1930s, I'm sure you're probably familiar with it as dancers, in the 1930s, the law came in that you had to have a dance license to be able to gather people together to dance. The 1935 Dance Hall Act, which instantly ruled out informal crossroads dances, house gatherings like a Ramblin' House or Cayley's or whatever it may be. You had to have that license, and that license was approved by a judge, but could be influenced by the state and the guards and the church in that area. Now, some priests couldn't give a hoot, and you can see that in many areas that it was fine. There was no problem with it. But whatever happened in Leitrim, it was a hotbed, and I think Gralton had them all wound up to the last. So he was deported. Gralton was a person who built a hall here in Effrina, and in 1932 they burnt the hall down. And he went on the run because De Valera was going to deport him, even though he was born here in Effrina. He's the only Irishman ever to be deported. And at that time, jazz music was coming in and creeping and influencing Irish music as well. So with all of that mix and anti-jazz protests happening in Leitrim, and dancing, I guess, Lindy Hop and foxtrots, it wasn't going down well. So the introduction of the license came in 1935 on the 20th, or I think it was the 19th of February. So it's 90 years ago this year. And it was recommended by a report in the Cargeen report leading up to it. And it was basically the study was to look at the role of women in society today and how were women getting pregnant outside of marriage. So they decided that had these dance halls, that it was happening. And it probably was. But with that, then they brought in this rule. They recommended that there need to be this rule to oversee the dances that were happening and where they could happen, and they shouldn't be all-night dances and all of that kind of stuff. But after this rule was brought in February 90 years ago, 9 days later, contraception was banned. And that also came from the report. So it was very much this attack on women in society, and all throughout the 30s and 40s, the Leitrim Observer was a hotbed for it, but nationally there was huge public scrutiny of women and who they danced with, how they got to the dance, what clothes they wore, if the elbows were on show. You know, it was just how they danced and moved, who they danced with. It's incredible. And a lot of those people like that were in my house dancing there a few minutes ago, they can still tell me stories about being chastised, who they were dancing with. So where am I going with this? What to tell you from here? There's so much to tell you. But anyway, there's great stories about the devil being seen in the dance hall and how women were dancing with him, and he was this beautiful figure. But then when he showed off his feet, his hooves were there. So with this project that I'm doing, I'm trying to draw attention to it, and also draw attention that this law is still in law. It's not highly enforced unless you do something like a rave or something that's more controversial to normal society today. But if you were to go to a hotel for a dance with a band today, or if you had a wedding party, the dance license is applied and paid for. So it's there. So yeah, just looking at hopefully trying to get it removed. But over the next, starting in May all the way through to November, I have what I'm calling illegal events happening across the country. And there'll be cake dances, ceilidhs. There's other really interesting ones where I'm working with Vincent Woods and a really beautiful 9-piece band led by Kathy Jordan, a trad swing band, and Seamus O'Rourke, if anybody knows the great actor from Leitrim. So there's lots of things in the play, and we intend to cause a lot of controversy around it for the next few months. But if you keep an eye on my Instagram page, I'll be sharing the secret events, and you have to have the password to get to it and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, anyway, I'll stop talking now. Gurmila Maigas. Am I done, or do you want me?
Once again,